Good evening and welcome to the third episode of Coffee with Keith. My name is Amy Gruber and I'm the Director of Enrollment Management and Marketing at Asus Portugal. And we're delighted to bring two of our new colleagues to you this evening. I would like to introduce to you Erin Searles. Erin, please wave so they know which one you are. Thank you. Erin joins Asus as a first grade teacher. She has a bachelor's degree and a Master of Science in Educational Theory and Practice from the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. Go Vols! And with Erin's many years of experience as a teacher, literacy coach, elementary coordinator, and librarian within Chicago public school system, and also at Seoul Foreign School in Korea, she brings a wide array of talents and a love of teaching to our community. Erin joins our community this summer with her husband, John, who will be a member of the admissions and marketing team as Director of Media and Brand. And also their two sons, Ralph and Arthur, will be founding students here at Asus Portugal. Heather Brooks. Thank you, Heather. Heather studied as a K-6 elementary education generalist at Taylor University in Indiana, and she holds a BA in art history from the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota. She's truly a global citizen. Heather has lived in 4 countries with her family. Most recently, she worked as a substitute teacher at the American International School of Guangzhou in China, which allowed her to be home with their youngest daughter while fulfilling her desires to maintain a presence in the classroom and inspire a love of reading and writing in her students. Heather and her husband, Bill, who will teach English and Social Studies in grades 4 through 7, will join us this summer with their 3 daughters, Della, Vivian, and G. So welcome to this wonderful team who will be a great group of teachers or team of teachers for our first graders. So welcome to Heather and to Erin.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with Keith. In case you didn't join us the last few weeks, I'm Keith Chiquin, headmaster at the 4th Asus campus, Asus Portugal. And this is coffee, or not, only my hairdresser knows, and I haven't seen her in a long time, as you can tell. Amazingly, our attendance grew by almost 50% last week, which was a shock to me. I assume that's because people are running out of Netflix accounts and will watch just about anything these days. Seriously, we're glad to have you all here during these challenging times. I was reminded by a few people that my office is quite dark and people could not see my face, so count yourself lucky. However, this week we've added more lighting, although still no hair and makeup. So, we are doing this webinar series to communicate with families and faculty and staff during this time of pause. Our purpose in all of this is to share information in a candid way to show you the kind of transparency that we will demonstrate when we're an operating school. And I want to say something to the parents out there who are working so diligently to support their young children's learning. I want to assure you that you're probably doing a very good job. A job likely that likely has many distractions, including perhaps attempting to maintain your own employment at the same time. However, like all good teachers, you're probably feeling like you could be doing a better job. And you're probably right, because let's face it, our own children do not listen to us. They believe generally that we're antiquated, uninformed, and incapable. However, please don't lose faith or give up. Everything you do for them is helping them become better learners, or at least appreciate their own teachers more. And remember that it's also in times like this, times of challenge, like the times we're in, that builds creativity and resilience for children. So all joking aside, I don't want you to worry that they may be falling behind and forever disadvantaged. At Asus, we will do 2 things for you in the short term. First, we will provide some guidance on small things you can do to help your children prepare. Most of it will be in the essential literacies, such as reading and a bit of mathematics, nothing too heavy, but something to help you and them feel better about joining us in 5 months. And secondly, more importantly, when they're here with us, we will catch them up and we will get them to where they need to be. So please relax. Don't pressure yourselves or your children. Most importantly, take care of yourselves and your families. You may never have this much time together again in your lives. So please find a way to treasure it. This too shall pass. Speaking of which, I would like to say hello to my own family, particularly my sons, who are definitely not watching tonight. Last week we featured Erica Carroll, our Director of Learning and Assessment. Erica contributed many pearls of wisdom to the conversation, and she also made me look very smart for hiring her, of course. But she said one thing that was important that I hope everyone heard. We prefer engaged children to obedient ones. And that is 100% true. However, that same aphorism does not apply to parents. I'll let that sink in. Tonight we get to meet some of our teachers. That was a joke, by the way. Tonight we get to meet some of our teachers. Normally we would interview some of our earliest learning teachers, the Asus Early Learning Center teachers. However, all of those teachers are currently working in local schools. And out of respect to those schools, we are not able to introduce them here tonight, but hopefully in the not too distant future, you'll get to meet those teachers. Tonight, though, we bring you our first grade teachers. And I think you're going to really enjoy meeting them. Lovely people, highly professional educators. And so, Amy has introduced them, and I have a few questions to ask Heather and Aaron. And you can both, Heather and Aaron, jump in to whichever question you like, and you can both take a shot at the same question.
Good.
Keith, excuse me, housekeeping item. I forgot to remind people that they can submit questions. There's a Q&A tab on the bottom of the Zoom screen. So I will be curating those questions after Keith and Heather and Aaron are finished. So thank you very much.
All right, Aaron, Heather, no gotcha questions tonight. We just want to get to know you a little bit. Thank you for joining us, and we're very interested in finding out some more about you and your philosophies of education. So please tell me about your experiences, the ones that shaped you as an educator, and also what, in your opinion, makes for a great school. I don't know who wants to start us off. Heather, you're nodding, so I'm gonna let you start.
I was nodding. Yeah, in a word, what makes a great school, I think, is great teachers who have a heart for teaching. And to have the heart for teaching means you accept kids for everything that they are, and you do your best to support them and engage them in learning. You know, help them to see themselves as learners, help them to find curiosity and follow it. I think when you have that in place, everything else kind of follows. As a teacher, I would say the thing that shaped me the most is my own experience with education as a student. I was one of the students who flew through elementary school, flew through middle school. Everything was really easy, was not a challenge for me at all. And so in 8th grade, I joined the advanced placement math because I was a straight A student and I was challenged for the first time and did not know what to do. And my response was feelings of embarrassment. I didn't want to ask for help because I had never needed it before. And I just got it in my mind. I'm like, well, maybe I'm not a math person. And I now know that that's not a thing. You know, we need to teach kids from the get-go how to think mathematically and how to embrace challenges and what to do when things don't make sense. I think kids need to be, and this gets into differentiation, of course, which is important to Asus, but there's no reason a kid should never be challenged up until 8th grade. We need to see our kids and support them and challenge them so that they know what to do when they don't know the answer to something. And that's how you learn to become a learner.
Great, thank you, Heather. I like that. Meeting our children where they are. That's a nice phrase. Aaron, talk about your experiences, and you've been at a lot of schools. What makes for a great school?
To me, school is all about community and just knowing that the teachers, the parents, the students, we all really play a role together and the value in that. And looking back on my own experience as a student and as a teacher and now as a parent too, I can see where I have felt most successful in the times where all three of those parties were on board with each other, and the communication between the parents, the students, and the teacher, and that school is so much more than just a place for academics. And I think especially in an international school, that's a big part of what is drawing us to TASIS is this idea of just what international schools are as a community together. It's more than I think the typical school is. And for me in my own education, I was always kind of a middle of the road student, and I actually moved a lot growing up too. And so I feel like a lot of my school years, I was kind of off the radar and able to kind of fall through the cracks on things. I specifically remember in second grade, I was given the book Paddington Bear, and it was like my first chapter book that I ever held. And I remember during Dear Time, Drop Everything and Read, I remember sitting at my desk just like staring at the pages. Like I was desperate to read that book, but I couldn't, and I just faked it and pretended that I could. And I think I look back and think about my teacher, where she probably knew I couldn't read that, and I don't ever remember her really intervening and pouring into me. And I have a few other stories like that where I feel like I kind of was invisible in the classroom. And I always wanted to teach, and I think a big part of it is that I want each of my students to really feel seen and known for where they are, and knowing that some kids might be more vocal about their needs, but there are also students who might be kind of shy and in the back corner and not really able to step up and communicate their needs. And I believe both of those students need their needs to be addressed. So I think that was a big part of what has shaped me and who I am as a teacher and in my beliefs about school. I also, as a professional, have had, specifically, I worked with a literacy coach who really poured into me as a young teacher and taught me a lot about collaboration in the classroom, and that so often as teachers, it's easy for teachers to just close their doors and kind of feel isolated in their teaching and in navigating the classroom. And through my literacy coach, I really learned the value of opening our doors, and that as teachers, we are a team. And I think one of the greatest gifts of TASIS is that in the primary grades, we have co-teachers, and knowing that Heather and I will be in a classroom together, being able to really assess the needs of our students and meet those needs, I think is such a gift, because I believe in community, and that teachers and students and parents, we're working together as a team toward a common goal.
Thank you both. Thank you, Erin. We talk a lot about the partnership that we share with our parents in educating young people. And it's great to hear both of you talk about that. And I know you're both open to working very closely with parents, a lot of communication with their families to make sure that they know where their young learners are and they know how to best support their young learners. I was speaking with our early learning center teachers just today, and they talked about how they want to meet with all of the parents in the early years and talk about how best to support their children in their learning. Not that the job falls to parents at home, but the little things that parents can do at home to support the teacher, but also to help young people. And one of the things we talk about, and I've written about, is reading aloud with your children. And most of the parents that we've met with already do that. We have a pretty sophisticated parent group, and they know what good education looks like, and that's why they're excited to be coming to TASIS, and certainly they're going to be excited to be working with you two. Question 4, we'll start with Erin. Tell me about first graders, who they are, what they need socially and emotionally and academically, and how we provide that.
Absolutely. I love first graders, and I want to say hello to any incoming first graders who might be watching, and any parents especially. We're so excited to meet you. I love first graders. I believe that there's just such a richness at their age, and a boldness and sometimes a tenderness to them. I think it's just one of the sweetest ages. And like if you look at research, a typical, I'll say some things that they're generalizations, so taking them with a grain of salt. But typically boys at this age, they tend to be pretty tender, maybe a little more emotional than they have been in the past. They enjoy having rules and boundaries and like to know the order to things. And they're also very competitive. I have a boy in this stage at my house. He'll be in kindergarten this year. And then girls at this stage, it tends to be one of their most adventurous stages. So like, if you think about, I love books and literacy, and if you think about favorite girl characters in books, they're normally around this age where they're like the girl who's out on her bike, like pursuing some kind of mission that she's come up with, and just like really active. And it's just such a fun age with girls. But then there also tends to be a little bit of, they might have some fears in certain things that are like a focused fear on something, but then really adventurous about something else. And with girls at this age, especially, relationships really begin to matter too. And so thinking about that and what a general typical first grader might need, knowing that we're going to have a range of students and each student has strengths and weaknesses in different areas, but knowing what we know about first graders, I believe it is so important for us to really embrace and value activity and play and hands-on learning. What we know about kids at this stage is that auditory, especially with boys, is not a strength for them. And so for us to sit and just talk at them is not going to work. In order for learners in first grade to be successful, they really need as many hands-on and active opportunities to be part of the learning process, and visual opportunities for them to really see the information that we're wanting to teach them, and knowing that within our classroom there are going to be all kinds of different learning opportunities, but really wanting to value and emphasize how active they are at this stage and how hands-on they tend to be is very important. And I would also say at this stage, when we think socially and emotionally about first graders, it's a very delicate time in their development, and external relationships begin to matter more. They're a little less egocentric and really caring about friendships and wanting to make sure that they're secure in whatever communities that they're in. And so I really believe that a big part of our role as teachers is creating an environment where our students feel like they are safe and welcome and comfortable to be themselves, and also to just feel comfortable with expressing their feelings and emotions. And as teachers, Heather and I will really work to help equip them with the skills to really name their feelings and knowing how to navigate different feelings that they're having, because those are skills that really need to be taught to children. It's not something that they can always naturally do on their own, but I think really with us building an inviting space that welcomes them in and makes them feel confident and secure, and providing them with skills along the way. I believe as a teacher, it's more than us just teaching them the math content or the science content, whatever our units of study are that we're working through, but that along the way we know there are going to be social and emotional needs, and that those come first, with us just supporting our students and helping them to feel like they are valid and important parts of our community.
Well done. Thank you, Erin, for that. You know, you talked about young boys being not great auditory learners. And then you said a bunch of other things, but I nodded off. I'm sorry. Heather, I know you want to jump in there.
I agree wholeheartedly with everything Erin just said. First grade is such a big year. We're taking kindergartners and preparing them for second grade. And if you think about a kindergartner and think about a second grader, it's a huge year. And most people associate it with jumps in literacy and reading and really grasping those phonics and their abilities to read. But yeah, acknowledging that it's a big year in terms of emotions and physical development and brain development, and building character, I think, is everything that we're going to be focusing on. The whole kid. We got them all.
Thank you, Heather. And you were saying that grade 1 is a big year. Would you say that grade 1 is probably the biggest year in all of their schooling, and really the other grades don't matter that much? I mean, your estimate.
We haven't met all the other teachers yet, so I don't want to make anybody mad just yet. But grade 1's pretty great.
Here's a question for both of you, and maybe deliver it in 60 seconds if you can. What are you most looking forward to about Asus Portugal? Heather?
I'll jump on that one. I nodded again. We weren't 100% sure we wanted to leave China. It had to be a worthwhile opportunity for us. We were very attracted by the reputation of the Asus Foundation and the other schools, even before we heard they were building one in Portugal. So we were attracted by the academics, specifically the focus on the arts. With my background in art history, that's something I just think is so important, especially in the younger grades where it's often overlooked. But what really clinched it for us, Keith, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but during our interview, you referred to our girls as the icing on the cake. And for the first time in any international education setting, we were being valued as a family and not just teachers and their dependents. And that made it abundantly clear to me that everything you were saying about community was true. We are valued because of what we bring as teachers and as experts, but also who we are as a family and who we can be in this community. And that means everything to a parent, of course, but that's the type of school I want to teach in. And that's what clinched it.
Nicely done. And the reality is, I just really like cake.
That's fair.
What's bringing you to Asus Portugal? Well, you and John, obviously, and your children.
Yes. So currently my family is in Nashville. I've spent the last 18 months at home with my boys, and we had agreed, we were in Korea, came back for a season for our boys to feel rooted in America and to really connect with our family, knowing we wanted to go abroad again sometime, thinking it might be a little further down the road, and knowing that it needed to be a special school that we were going to pack up and leave for. And we similarly had already known a little bit about Asus and always kind of had followed it along the way, and we're excited to see that they're opening a new school. And I think for us, it feels like for our whole family, it just seems like it's going to be such a great fit. I'm so excited for our boys to attend such an amazing school, and just knowing the experiences that they're going to have. I'm so excited about, and I'm thrilled as a teacher to know that we're going to be using Math in Focus and core knowledge, and that I get to have a co-teacher alongside with me is such a gift. And for my husband, John, too, it just seems like a really good fit for him. So unexpectedly, we just said, yes, let's do this. And we wouldn't have done it for any other school. Like, it just really felt like this is the right place for us as a family to be going, and we're so excited to embark on this together.
Thank you. Nicely said. Aaron, well, I've got you because you mentioned Math in Focus. Can you talk a little bit about Singapore Math? Because I know you've used that in your past schools, and how do you use that in grade 1?
Absolutely. Yes, at Seoul Foreign School, I was there for 5 years, and I was in the classroom for 4 years, and we had an extensive partnership with some of the researchers and professors from Singapore that would come and support us as teachers. And I feel like I was really able to develop my expertise in teaching math, especially with Math in Focus in that time. And what I really love about it is just that I think differentiation just naturally flows out of it. I don't feel like it's something that I had to add in to the curriculum. I think as teachers, if any teachers are listening and uncertain about it, I was amazed at the resources that they provide us with. There are almost too many options to choose from. And I think that that's really great because there's a great wealth of tools for reteaching students who might need extra support, and then also for differentiation. I had a lot of really high flyers in my class, and I felt like there are additional resources to support them, but even just in the way that Singapore math lessons are structured, differentiation is just naturally woven into it. And what that looks like is in Singapore math, it's called the concrete, pictorial, and abstract model is used, where when you're teaching a new concept, it always starts with using a tool with your hands and starting out with practicing with that concept with manipulatives. And like we said earlier about first graders, they need things to be hands-on. And so to sit and just start talking about mathematical concepts to a first grader, that's not going to sink in with them. But if we can get them actively engaging in the concept and manipulating tools with their hands, it's going to take root for them much more quickly and more meaningfully. And so I really love the approach that is used with it. And I think that one of the biggest gifts is that not only is it about developing students' ability with math skills, but I think that it really naturally ties in the mathematical practice standards, which are the different ways that mathematicians, the practices that they follow as they're problem solving. So like for some students might be really strong at modeling their thinking in different ways, while you might have another student who's needing to work on being able to explain their thinking. But it's broken down into different practices that mathematicians apply as they're working through. And I think that that's also a really great way for students to differentiate based on their needs. So I was really excited to hear that we were using Math in Focus. And I think that, I didn't mention this, but you'll hear about bar models and a way of modeling your thinking, and some of them call it like new math, and there's all kinds of things out there on that. But I do want to reassure anyone who might be skeptical or uncertain about it and just say that I think that the transference that happens through the ways that students are taught in Math in Focus, I think is it's really wonderful. So I'm excited.
Great. Thank you, Erin. So Erin and Heather, you're separated, you're living in different states right now in the US, quite a distance apart, but you've been communicating. Yes. When did you meet, and what have you been talking about?
Well, I think our husbands initially connected through Facebook.
Yeah.
And we had a little Zoom day. Everyone's Zooming now, right? It's like, so we had a Zoom date, I guess, a week and a half ago.
Time is very strange.
Time is relative right now.
Yeah, we did. The Zoom date was great. It was an instant click. We get along so well, and we were planning on talking for maybe 20 or 30 minutes, and it was 2.5 hours later when we're like, we should probably get to bed. We have kids that will wake up early. But I mean, right from the get-go, I sense that you are just warm and knowledgeable and absolutely someone that I would want to teach with, and I would want teaching my own kids. So I am incredibly confident in us as the grade 1 teachers and as co-teachers.
Yeah, we hit it off. We have a lot of common interests. We both love to bake and play games, and so it was fun to kind of just get to know one another, and we're excited to work together.
Excellent. Heather, can you tell us a little bit about the importance of teacher collaboration and the purpose it serves in a school, since you two have been collaborating already?
Absolutely. When I actually had the opportunity to attend a training this fall with Andrea Honingsfield, who she literally wrote the book on co-teaching. She's written several. And it was a 2-day intensive where she came into AISG, our school in China, we had a long info session with her, and then a fishbowl session where she took some of our co-teachers, including Bill, my husband. He was our participant there, and critiqued their co-teaching. And since then, I think everybody should co-teach. I think it's something that needs to be looked at and embraced everywhere. The benefits for kids are numerous. They get two minds, or two minds are better than one. You know, you have two experts in your classroom, and there's various models of ways that you can use them. What it means is more differentiation opportunities. It means more one-on-one opportunities, more small groups, and more support for every kid. And they see that there's a model for cooperation, a model for knowledge and sharing things, and for really working together in your teachers. For teachers too, the benefits are so worthwhile. You almost eliminate the risk of teacher burnout, because we have someone we are co-planning with, we're co-teaching, we're co-assessing, we can constantly talk through everything, and it keeps you sane, really, and it lessens the workload on one mind.
I'm sure some of our parents are experiencing the co-teaching model at home right now. They may not agree with all of your advantages, but so last question, and then we're going to open up the field to email questions. But our core knowledge curriculum, this one's for you, Erin, because I know you have a love of library and literacy. Not that Heather doesn't, but our core knowledge curriculum is filled with nonfiction reading. Is this something that appeals to young people in your experience?
I think it absolutely does. And actually, there's research out there that, especially for boys, the books that tend to hook boys in are nonfiction. I think it's really important for it to be quality, and I think with any book, it's about the way that it's sold to the reader and the way that they're hooked into it. I know Heather and I both really love reading, and I think that that is something that I care deeply about, is that each one of my students would leave the year seeing themselves as a reader, the identity of, yes, I am a reader and I have books that I love, and that books are a gateway into the world, and I think especially nonfiction. But I do think it's about the way that we present books to kids and the way that we give them access to those books.
Excellent, thank you. So I'm going to turn over to Amy, who's fielding questions from our viewing audience, and she will direct those to one or both of you.
Hi again. It's great to be back, and I'm so excited for the school year to start when I hear our teachers like Erin and Heather talk about why they love to do what they do, and how they've obviously made a serious practice of being experts in their field. Makes me very proud to talk to our families about you. One quick note, I forgot to give a special hello to my mother-in-law, Doreen Shaquin, Keith's mother, who is with us tonight as an attendee. So Doreen, I hope you're doing well in Toronto. And as we're thinking here that this has been a long time that we've been at home, and it feels like a long time, and kids have been out of school, Heather and Bill have been distance learning since January when they left China. So they have a lot more experience in this regard than we do. But we have a number of questions, all from parents of enrolled students, which is lovely. The first question from a father of 2 enrolled students. First of all, welcome. That's to Heather and Erin. And I hope to meet you in person in the nearest future. And a question for you both. What kind of skills do you expect for kids to have when they arrive in your classroom? And what skills would you hope them to have when they leave?
I think that's a great question. And I definitely want to start by acknowledging that, given just where everyone is right now in the current circumstances, that we know that kids are going to be coming from many different places, and knowing that our kids are all coming from different schools too. I think that we are excited for them to come in regardless of where their skills are, knowing that we will work to build those throughout the year. And I think the biggest things are just students. I think we'll start off really with that social emotional aspect and really knowing our students and what their individual needs are. I would say by the end, I would hope that our students are independent and knowing. I think a big part of us building, we've talked a lot about community, and I really care about us building a strong classroom community that's consistent so that our students can feel like they're owning the space. And it's not Heather and my space, but it's our students' space. And if they know how to navigate the classroom or managing materials and supplies. And so I think big skills that we work on in first grade are independence with managing supplies and their learning tools, knowing that they need support with that. But I think as much as possible, building those skills are very helpful. There's also such a wide range too when we think about just basic life skills. I know that kids will come in different places, as far as like shoe tying is a big thing you might work on, or just it's hard to name specific skills I think we would expect students to come in with, but I do just want to reassure parents that we want to see and know your child for where they are, and we'll build on those.
I agree. I know a lot of fellow teachers and have been reading up on trauma-informed approaches to education and what kids will need at the start of next year is a little different than most years. And knowing that they're going to need to feel safe, they're going to need to feel connected, they're going to need, they'll need to learn how to identify what they're feeling and what they have felt, what they've gone through, because this is traumatic. You know, we evacuated, we know, been through the ringer here, so I know there's trauma involved. And so coming into first grade next year, I don't know that I could name a certain skill, but leaving, I just hope that they're leaving confident learners who had a great year and knew that they were cared for.
And so core knowledge really lists out the content that we will be exploring as we move throughout the year. Math and Focus also has like the first grade skills that we'll be building on throughout the year. I'm really excited about how systematic our approach will be to, like, when we're looking at literacy. Core Knowledge really has a very solid phonics program that I think I'm new to it, but I'm really excited about watching that and being part of implementing that. We'll also be working on handwriting, but within the Core Knowledge resources and Math and Focus, you'll be able to see the specific like content skills that we would be working on. But we're really excited about getting to know your children and where they are and supporting them toward our end of year academic goals, but also just social and emotional support.
Mm-hmm. One last thing. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Heather.
Erica mentioned last week too that we're going to have students coming into the core knowledge curriculum from other curriculums as well. So we are anticipating such a range of levels and abilities in all of our curriculum contents.
So a related question that I'm getting quite frequently in the admissions office, because our kindergartners are, out of school and distance learning really all over the world right now. What would you say to a parent who says, my kindergarten child who's coming into your first grade class is not yet reading? Is there an expectation for your entering first graders to be already reading?
No.
Nope.
No. We know how hard this is on everyone, and I think the last thing I would want parents to feel is within the next 5 months you need to teach your child to read, because I can't imagine that ending well, because reading is so much more than just being able to decode the words on the page. And I think that it's a delicate process too, where along the way you want them to love reading and not just be able to do it. And I think when we as parents feel the pressure, I need to get my kid to this goal, then I don't foresee it being a positive experience for your child. And we as teachers are skilled in being able to assess your child, know where they are, and whether it's above where they should be, whether it's first grade benchmark goals or whether it's below the typical goal. We know that we can help support meet those needs. And first grade, again, is such a vital year, and so much, whether even if they've had their full kindergarten year and they're coming in, there's going to be so much growth. So I'm really excited to think about our kids coming in, supporting them, knowing where they are, and how much growth we're going to see next year. Because we know that kids are resilient too. And so I would say, don't force your child to learn how to read right now. That's not good for you or for them. And that we're really excited to know where they are and support them regardless of what particular level they are, what they can or cannot do.
Erin,
I agree.
Heather, I'm just going to jump in and ask Erin one question, then I'm going to let you finish the comment. But you said something, and I know you're a literacy expert, Erin, but you said something earlier that you're new to core knowledge phonics. And I just wanted to clarify for folks, you're not new to phonics, which is the only research-supported method of teaching reading, but you're
Correct.
new to core knowledge phonics. Good. I just wanted to clarify. And maybe the two of you could give a few examples of things parents could do if they're worried about their young children being reading ready, or things that could help them prepare a little bit. Not teaching them how to read, but I'm thinking about reading aloud at home, which I think a lot of parents do already. But here,
Yeah.
Sorry, Heather, I cut you off.
No, not at all. That's exactly what I was going to say, that, again, everything Erin said completely. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself and you're taking care of your kids, and don't push it. But things that you can do to prepare them to go back to formal education setting, specific to reading, absolutely reading at home. If you are a bilingual or multilingual household, read in your home language, read in English, read in any language that you're comfortable with. I would say let your kids see you reading. Let them know that it's important to you. It could be a newspaper, it can be a magazine or a recipe, or a great big book, and let them see you reading on your own. That creates that culture of reading that I know Erin and I will be fostering in our own classroom, and you can do that at home as well. And I think the last big thing that just off the top of my head is to talk to them about reading and writing. What are they reading? What are you reading to them? Ask them questions throughout a storybook. What are they thinking? What do they hope will happen next? What do they think the character will do? Or nonfiction as well, which is great. Why do you think that is the way it is? Or you can find books online, I know right now, on anything that is interesting to them. It can be comic books, it can be graphic novels, it can be nonfiction, just anything that is sparking interest, I would say to jump on it.
And I would also say something that's working really well for us at home with my oldest, he's a year younger, but is having books, like letting him make his own books. So instead of just giving him like a sheet, he draws all over the place on everything, but making, like I staple together like 3 sheets of white paper, I staple it into a little book. And not only does that, as this is a mom hack, it takes longer than him drawing on a regular sheet of paper. So he's got a whole page of books a whole book of pages to fill. But more importantly, it's also helping him practice, and it's the transference of what I see in books and how books are made, like with the front cover, back cover, pages in between. He's starting to replicate that in his own writing. And it also gives me a window into what he can already do as a writer too. So, and the books, like he loves Mo Willems right now, lots of Piggy and Gerald, and I'll see some of that coming out in his writing. And sometimes I'm not always sitting there like coaching his writing, but I'll sometimes get a glimpse into like, oh, we saw this in Mo Willems. Do you think you could try this, whether it's with the words or the pictures? And I think spelling is a big thing. If you have a kindergartner who already is writing, and parents get very bent out of shape on how to support spelling, I would say another thing is just looking at, it's not about the whole word being spelled correctly, letting them spell it in the way that the sounds that they hear, and not spending 10 minutes helping them spell one word. Because again, that's not fostering a love of writing or a love of reading. So another helpful tip is just letting them make their own books, I think goes a long way into knowing where they are as writers. And it gives you a chance to support them in their writing too.
Fabulous.
I want to say one more thing, Amy. I know it's not my stage, but we've been so fortunate to find so many of our teachers are literacy and reading specialists from our early learning center all the way through grade 3. So our young learners are going to have so much support in the time they're with us to become really competent readers. I don't think anybody needs to worry. Obviously, both Heather and Aaron are experts in this area, but we have a lot of people whose specialty is reading. So we should feel comfortable with that.
So, pardon me, this is a question that helps us switch gears from the father of an enrolled student. Is first grade the first time you introduce Singapore math? If it's earlier, are there resources you can recommend that we use now? And Keith, you might need to talk about this one. When is Singapore math introduced?
We're going to introduce that in kindergarten, although our pre-kindergarten teachers also have, our pre-kindergarten teachers are Montessori trained. They're very hands-on in their approach. So they're going to start with some of the concepts, particularly the manipulatives in preschool. Then in in kindergarten, they will get experience with Singapore math, and then even more formally in grade 1.
Terrific. And we have a question. What does a first grade classroom look like at Asus? And so Heather and Aaron, I'm sure you've talked a little bit about this. What will your classroom look like?
I think a big part is, it's going to be active, right? We've got first graders, and you'll see lots of movement. If you were to walk into our room, I would imagine you'd see movement happening, different activities. We'll call for different organizations in the classroom, I guess. But I think also there'd be predictability with like where tools are, so that we're really promoting, again, that independence is very important in first grade, and just creating, I would imagine, spaces where the kids are able to access and get what they need. So things that are down on their level, supplies where they can get access to them on their own. And I would imagine students that are in groups talking to each other, us having time together on the carpet, maybe as a whole class, lots of books and different tools out. What would you like to add to that, Heather?
Yeah, color. What I see, there needs to be a lot of color. Predictability is really important. Structure, consistency, those things will be really intentionally set up for sure. But I think there's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be colorful. There's going to be, areas for creating art and creating like a makerspace kind of situation. There's going to be books. There are going to be lots of books, I'm sure. And definitely places to display student achievement, I think, is something we want to build up that confidence and build up that pride in what they're doing and what they're learning. And so that's something that I definitely want to see up on our walls.
And Keith, I'm sure you can also add to this answer here, because you know what the classrooms will physically look like. You've picked all the materials.
We work with a designer. The classrooms will be, first of all, wood grain floor. They won't be wood because that's difficult to keep sanitized, but wood grain floor in a nice light color. The walls will all be white, except one wall in every classroom will be covered entirely with native cork. So you're talking about display boards and pinning things to the walls, an entire wall of cork. Every classroom will have a interactive smart screen. So when you want to bring technology into the classroom, it is at your fingertips. But we specifically picked neutral colors so that you could decorate in color where you wanted to. Our furniture, and Heather and Aaron haven't had a chance to see our furniture or to help select it. We just finished selecting all the furniture for the Early Learning Center. We just finished that this week. So next, you two will help to pick the furniture for grade 1. We have an amazing German company. The quality is absolute top quality furniture. And it's all natural wood colors. And you're going to be able to outfit your classroom in the way that you want to outfit it. And that'll be the same for grades 1 through 3. So we'll be reaching out to you to help in that design probably next week. But they're going to be wonderful spaces. And of course, lots of windows.
And also the instructional technology in place as well. So the common theme in all of the classrooms is the windows, the cork, the instructional technology, great spaces for kids. It's going to be a beautiful school. So Heather and Aaron, we have a question from a father whose son is in first grade now and struggling very much with reading. So the way you two are talking about it, I'm sure is resonating. In your class, will kids be able to read easily at the end of the school year in first grade?
I think reading is a student by student process, and I think no children, sorry, I'm trying to think of how to word this. Each child learns at their own pace, knowing that as teachers, our role is to support them where they are and ensure that they're continuing to make progress. So our goal would be that all our kids would be in that place, but also knowing that we'll have a range of readers. Just like in anything, there's always a range of our abilities in different aspects of our life, whether we're adults or children. So I think it's hard to say that everyone, we will work toward everyone ensuring that they're making progress and meeting their goals.
Fantastic.
Can I introduce an item that parents might want to purchase now? I happen to have a copy of it. So our core knowledge curriculum was an endeavor taken by E.D. Hirsch Jr., who was a university professor doing research in education and became alarmed, disenchanted with what was going on in many schools and the loss of knowledge. And so he first, before he wrote this curriculum with probably 100 other educators, he first wrote books called What Your Kindergartner Needs to Know, What Your First Grader Needs to Know. And they're brilliant small books that any parent could make their way through. It is the foundation of our curriculum. I'm holding one now. I don't know if folks can see it, but it's available. I ordered this from Amazon, Spain, and it arrived very quickly. It's about €20. And there's so many fun activities in here, plus just lots of general knowledge, poetry, short stories, my favorite, Humpty Dumpty, although I found it a bit defeatist. So these are the kind of things that you could purchase because you have kindergartners, and you could have a lot of fun with this book probably for months. So if you're interested, Amy will put this up on our website as a resource at some point, but it's called What Your Kindergartner Needs to Know by E.D. Hirsch. So there you go. That's just one suggestion.
Fantastic. And related to the question about Singapore math, also, Aaron has referenced many times Math in Focus, which is book for Singapore math. Would you recommend parents ordering that, Erin?
Yes, I think if they're looking for a preview into the math that we'll be using, I do think also what I love about Singapore math, the Math in Focus tools are so valuable, but you'll really experience Math in Focus Singapore math in the classroom. I would say that it's more than just the resources that you could buy online, if that makes sense.
It does.
So much
Thank you.
of it is the questioning and the thinking that we will encourage students to have, and we will share those. Something I haven't really hit on, but would like to emphasize is just how important I think it is for parents to be in the know of the ways that we're teaching your children. And I think that we will see the most growth and progress in your children when you feel like you understand what we're doing and why we're doing that. And what that looked like for me in Korea was doing parent chats where we would either bring you into our classroom and let you be part of a math lesson or part of our writing time to see it with your own eyes, or also giving you tools to help you at home. But so if you're wanting to learn more about Singapore math, I wouldn't want to stop you from ordering resources, but also know that when we meet you at the beginning of the year, we don't expect you to know all these things. We want to be there to help support you and equip you throughout the year so that you as parents feel like you can really support your children at home.
This particular dad, David, I'm sure will be ordering them all. This is why I asked.
Amy and David. Hello, David. I would recommend not ordering the Singapore math resources now because, well, first of all, the book I just held up has numeracy concepts which 5-year-olds can manage. We chose Singapore math because it is a different form of pedagogy. It's not a different curriculum. It's a different way of teaching mathematical concepts. And we're having professional trainers come in and work with all of our teachers. And then we hired a Singapore math specialist to be on our staff and do nothing but work with our staff, our faculty, because the methodology of teaching that, the pedagogy is very precise. And it's entirely new. Even to people like me who has a degree in mathematics, it's a very different way of approaching math. It's a brilliant way, but I wouldn't want parents to feel pressured to do that now, certainly to learn it themselves or to try to work with their young children on that. I think that probably is better left for when they get here.
Good point. We have a question. Hi, we are still in America, in California. If the COVID-19 situation and restrictions on movement continue, what is the plan for distance learning at the start of the school year?
I'll take that one. Well, first of all, we're fortunate that all of our teachers have had experience in distance learning, most of them before the last 3 months. So we have a great bank of resources and talent and experience in that area. However, we're very hopeful that isn't the case. We will manage it, but we would rather look at almost every other alternative. Mm-hmm. We've been thinking about what happens in August if we know that students can't come back to school. Is there a way to get students back into school in a staggered fashion? That is, can we keep distancing, social distancing, but have students come, maybe half of them in the morning and half of them in the afternoon? That's been discussed. By then, will there be either an inoculation and vaccination, or will there be at least readily available testing so that we can have all of our students tested on a regular basis, and our teachers, making the environment safe for people to attend? We're going to do everything in our power to make sure people can attend face-to-face starting September 7th. That's our goal. If we have to resort to online learning, we can master that because we have the resources and the people. But that's our last option, and I'm sure for you, it's certainly the last option.
Well, and I would add 2 quick things to that. Our colleague Asus schools are currently managing it quite well. We have the same kinds of systems, and so very easy for us to take advantage of what they've already put in place. But we also have a number of teachers, including Erica Harrow, Director of Learning and Assessment, who was on last week, who is currently managing her school's online delivery. So we've got lots of experience there. But we're going to get that question every week, and we appreciate how important it is. Final question.
Sorry, Amy, just one more thing, because you and I talked about this just this week. We're also extremely fortunate that we've got some parents in our parent body who are medical professionals. And we are going to, if we need to, we're going to pull that group together sometime before school starts to get their best advice on how to manage this along with us.
Final question here, but I also see a pop-up, which I'll get to in a moment. Doreen Shaquin, Keith's mother, has just raised her hand, so apparently your mom wants a question. We'll have to get to that. But this question is a great one, and I'm grateful for it because we should have addressed it. Do first graders get homework or get formal tests? What is the weekly homework load? How about evaluations and tests? So great question. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question, and one that Erin and I haven't sat down to discuss just yet. But I'm pretty confident to say that there will be a lot of opportunities for assessment, and that it's not just a test at an end of a unit. We will be constantly assessing your kids and seeing how they are absorbing the information, how they're processing, how they're making sense of what they're being taught. And reflecting with each other on what needs to happen, who needs more support, so that by the time we get to the end of the unit, the kids will have opportunities to show us what they've learned. I think that's the way a lot of us are starting to view assessment in general. I don't know, Erin, if you had any other thoughts.
I would say assessment in a first grade room is constantly happening in very formative ways. I know Erica talked a lot about visible thinking routines, and I feel like we'll be implementing many different tools to formatively assess our students throughout the units and throughout our days. And we haven't talked a lot about differentiation today, but I would say that is where our differentiation or our groupings would come out. The old-fashioned way of differentiation and groupings was like, oh, you're locked into the bluebirds, like have fun being a bluebird all year. Whereas our approach would be that throughout our ongoing assessments that we're doing throughout our days, groupings would look very flexible and fluid, and it's not always based on a test score. It might be it depends on what skill we're working toward, would be how we would address individual learning needs. So assessment will be ongoing, and there will likely be some summative assessment, but more so formative.
And Keith has talked a lot about homework with many parents, so maybe you would handle the homework piece of that question, Keith.
Yes, I will. We have a very long school day. We have expert teachers. We've devoted enormous segments of our day to the essential literacies. We are not expecting students to, after a long day, go home and do copious amounts of homework in any grade, and in particular in the lowest grades. So, as we've mentioned, reading will be homework. Homework generally consists of parents reading aloud to their children and children reading aloud to their parents. That's considered to be a nightly 15-minute or more homework assignment. But other than that, we don't expect young children to have a lot of homework. By the time they get home after a really long day, they should enjoy their family time. They can take advantage of some of the things that we're doing. They may be keen to continue doing some of their coding and robotics, or they may be keen to play chess with their parents. But that's what we consider homework, brain development, not content mastery when they're not with the people who should be teaching them. The other thing I wanted to say about assessment, because we use terminology that not everybody is familiar with, but really in education, there's two forms of assessment. One is the assessment of learning, which is we take a look at what the young child has learned and we report on that. Typically that report is each semester, and then at the end of the year, there's a summative report saying, here's what your child has learned over the last 10 months. But the more important form of assessment is assessment not of learning, but assessment for learning, which is what Erin and Heather were talking about and what Erica Carroll talked about last week. Every day we need to know how young people are learning and what they're absorbing. Because if they're not absorbing what we expect them to be, then there's a problem with our instruction. And we have to go and revisit how we're teaching that for that child and differentiate the instruction so the child can understand it. And assessment for learning is a tool for teachers to use in a reflective way to make sure that they are improving their pedagogy to get to every child. And so that's our focus as a school, how to best meet young people where they are and teach them the skills they need. And sometimes that's not by Tuesday. Sometimes that's by November, or that sometimes it's not until March. I use the example, we don't just give somebody a 100-meter dash in October and say, we've got your time, you're done now, we're going to move on to long jump, right? We're going to be doing the 100-meter dash times all the time and at the end of the year. And we're trying to measure progress, not a snapshot, but progress over time is what we're shooting for. And that's why assessment for learning is so important.
Thank you. And finally, the mother of an enrolled 5th grader wrote, and I love this because she doesn't even have a 1st grade child, but our TASIS parents are so engaged that they're watching. So she writes, "Not a question. Excellent webinar and so interesting. TASIS has some great 1st grade teachers. Thank you, Erin and Heather." So I couldn't have said it better. So thank you all for your time tonight. We miss you all. We miss seeing you here in the school and look forward to seeing parents and students as soon as we can. So Keith, I'll let you have the final word.
Thank you, Amy. First of all, I just want to thank both Erin and Heather. I know you're both really busy right now teaching. I know you're also really busy right now parenting. And I know you're probably both spending a lot of time thinking about getting ready for your big move. So we're delighted you could join us. You both performed admirably. And I want to say to our audience, if that didn't get you excited about teaching, about TASIS, and about being in grade 1, I'm not sure what could. I said this before, I say it again, I say it every time. My job is to find the greatest teachers on the planet and hire them for this school. And I can tell you with great confidence, that's exactly what I've been able to do. Your young people, your children are going to have the most caring, supportive, educated, qualified, experienced people that we could find out of the 400 plus applicants that we've had. And I think Heather and Erin are 2 such examples. So I want to say thanks to everybody. Thanks for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you next Thursday. Amy, who are we featuring next Thursday?
We are featuring teachers who are working with our older students, the grade 4 through 7s, John Iglar and Isabella Boutros. So get ready to talk about science and coding and robotics and all that sort of thing.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And until next week, stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.